All right, everybody. Welcome to my second live stream ever. Very exciting. Happy Monday. Happy New Year again. Without warning, so hopefully there's at least one or two people that can come in at the beginning and warn me if my sound is okay. Going to wait just a second here to see if some people come in and to see if everything sounds all right on the stream. Checking my settings once more. Checking my settings over here. Should be fine. Now I understand why some people wait to start their streams. Just checking some settings here. Gonna start to cut up these streams as well, I think, and it's just as easy to post them as videos later when you have, some good charts and data and viewer feedback put together. So, that's all good as well. Let me check a couple things here. All right. I guess as well, it's probably good to inform that when I go live, to actually give a time a time for this. So it's a little after 11 Riga time, Baltic time, 10 Central Europe, Oslo, Berlin, and 9 in the UK. So it might be about the time that I think I'm going to try to do these streams going forward. Morning, my time here in Europe, and when things pick up for the U.S. American English market, it's usually when I have to pick my daughter up from school anyway. So it just doesn't work out that well. So it's better to do these things on European morning time. So that's what I'm gonna do. Just gonna see if we can get any more people in the chat. Had a good first stream on Friday. Maybe on Monday it's a little bit harder to get more people coming in. But like I said, I should probably broadcast it more. Can't always, I'm not sure I'm going to do it every day here, but most days I think this time is pretty good for me, and I think we can probably work it out. So the feedback is better when I get people watching and making comments. I enjoy that. I enjoy that more, actually. So I enjoyed it on Friday, and hopefully we can continue to do it. So having said all of that, I think I will just get started with the presentation here. I'm going to pull up a chart here and see how it looks on the live stream on the share. I'm learning now that it's a couple seconds delayed to what I do and actually on the feed, which makes sense for latency. So got a little picture-in-picture as well. You can see me. Ended up the presentation on Friday with this chart. All right, so it's a very detailed chart, little rainbow type chart based on the power curve. Okay, Bitcoin price adoption, Bitcoin price extrapolation as well out into the future here, But as I said, my new method, which I think is better, is running these multiples over an evolving curve, which I'm not showing in a dotted line here. The all-time curve is that solid black line. Before I was just running multiples over the all-time, but that would, as I said, that extended the multiples here in the early years because Bitcoin was just growing faster than the trend. So what I want to do here today on this stream is to show you the breakdown of these different multiples. Okay, so you see here in the tooltip, let's just move up till today. Got a lot up here, right? Every 10th percentile. Today is the 6th. Can I zoom in on it? We see here today with the 6th, the last price I just pulled into the software, $99,000 per Bitcoin, 6th of January. Again, happy Monday for those joining. Every 10th percentile here, you see this multiple in the tooltip, right? You see the 0.1x, 0.3x, 0.4x, 0.5, and then it gets a little, I'm using yellow there, which maybe I need to outline the tooltip. You can't really read it. And then you get up to 1, 1.4, 2, 7.8x, okay? So the multiple is the universe of sort of values that I am judging things off of. Nothing more, nothing less. Just the multiple of price around the black line, okay? And again, in the past, it's an evolving line now, which I think is going to be better. But I want to show you now the distribution of that as it stands over time. Okay, so the distribution, or the word I was looking for in the last stream is actually price. Sorry, it's actually probability mass. Got that from my buddy Sina over at the Best Bitcoin Data show. So I got a timeline here, and I'm gonna switch charts. All right. So now this actually isn't the probability mass. This is just the trend and the trend and the multiple. Okay, so the trend on this chart, which actually isn't even shown, is just 1. The whole time the trend is itself, so it's 1. What you see is the price versus the trend over time with my new evolving sort of method. Okay, where before, back in 2011, I would have things up to, over 15x, which was just too high because, again, that used the all-time trend. Now I'm using the evolving trend, which is better. All right, so what we see here, and I'll come back to this chart a few times in this stream, is we see that the Bitcoin price in the early years was very jumpy, right? And in the boom times, which we had a few certain booms, was that $30 boom. Let's see if I can press the, there we go. $35 boom in June 2011, okay, with a multiple itself over the trend 7.83x. All right, then we had 2 booms in 2013. We went to $240 at a 5.4x multiple, and then in 2013, about $1,100 on the close, although the price was even higher, 7.5x in the multiple. So these catch, the real extreme booms, the euphoria of Bitcoin adoption. Here is December 16th was the high, 2017, about 20,000 per Bitcoin. Of course, it did go over 20,000 on other markets during the day, but this was the highest close. These are only daily results, okay? And this multiple was 6x, okay? So right here, already, without going further, we can see that this isn't a perfect oscillator, right? If you always want to time the top, it would be great if we had a model that say, hey, we get to 7x, 8x, sell. We don't have that, okay? We're close to 8x here, 7.5x in 2013, and then 6x. So we've gone down, all right? But this is still, in my opinion, a very good way to see how the price evolves around the multiple over time. So now we'll go to the 21 double top, all right? And let's just look at the multiple. The first peak there in March of 2021, about 3x. Okay, when we get to 61,000 per Bitcoin, 3x multiple, there it is, all right? And that is this evolving over the power trend multiple. That is what you're seeing. Now, these bubbles, as we move forward, the bubbles on this chart get bigger as the price of Bitcoin gets bigger. Okay, so you see at 60x here, the bubbles are pretty big. Then they get a little bit smaller. We've gone down again. And then, the boom after all the FTX debacle here, 2022 into 2023, we bottomed at around 16,000. Peter Zeihan, the legendary geopolitical analyst said that Bitcoin was $16,000 overvalued here on Joe Rogan sometime here in December 2022. Of course, he was wrong, as all of us who have followed the system long enough understand. Bitcoin is not controlled by any geopolitical entity, so we knew that adoption was going to continue in the future. So here we are back up today. The current, as of today, as of the last feed into my data, right there, January 6th, 1.1x. That is the multiple. That means that today's price, 99,000, is 1.1 times the trend, the power trend. All right. So this is actually when I talk about making these bands on that rainbow chart, which I showed just prior. All right. These bands come from these multiples. All right. It's not from the price itself. It's the price divided by the trend. Important to keep in mind. And I really like this method because when you do price divided by trend, you get a multiple, right? You get something where you can think about just off the top of your head. All right, what's the power trend? This is the adoption, the relative adoption of Bitcoin. What's the trend? Okay, where's the price now? How hot are we in the market? Okay. And again, like I said, it's not a perfect oscillator because if it was a perfect oscillator, it would call the tops perfectly at the same values. Okay. It just doesn't do that. But it's simple. It's simple. All right. And so we can say that for sure 3x was a very high number. 3x the trend in 2021. All right. And the question is in 2025, if this is indeed the big year for Bitcoin, right? Will we get to 3x again? Will we get to 6x or will we get to 8x? All right. So this is what I want to show in this stream is the probability mass or the distribution of these different multiples, how you can actually see how rare or not they are. So that's what I'm going to show here in the next slide. All right. I'm going to show you how frequently these multiples actually occurred over the lifetime of all multiples that Bitcoin has calculated, 5,500 plus days of pricing data, 5,800 days of system data. All right. So for that, I'm going to go to this chart right here, and we're going to watch this little bar chart race. I'm going to show you this a couple times. Okay. Okay. What you're seeing here is a range of these multiples. You see in the left-hand axis, you're seeing a range. All right, so when the price is in a certain range, whether it's 0.25x to 0.5x or 0.5x to 1x or 1x to 1.5x, you're going to see these bars grow. All right, and we're in 2020 now. This is going monthly, just monthly year ends, month ends across the years. All right, and now it's finished. We're going to watch this a couple times because I think it's very, very illustrative of what happened. Okay, but let's look at the final analysis. All right, most of the time, that is 1,802 days in Bitcoin's life, we have seen that the multiple that I just showed you in the prior chart, okay, this multiple here, it is between 0.5 and 1x. So it's a little under trend, in fact, most of the time. All right, 1,800 days. The next level is an even lower multiple. It is between 0.25x and 0.5x. So again, this is picking up these days right here. Look at that. 0.26, 0.25, 0.27x. Yeah, it's picking up most of the time here. All right. It's actually in that level. All right. You start to get the level of 0.5. I probably could have had a grid line on 0.5x, but the level of 0.5 starts right about here on the chart. All right. Which again, the price will be different. It's a price versus the multiple, right? So we can have $6,000 price here at 0.5, and then here we have a $16,000 price. Let's get to $25,000 price at 0.5. Okay, so changes. All right, but anyway, that's the next one up. Then 1 to 1.5x, so just above trend, is the next most common occurrence, the next most common bucket of data that we can look at for these multiples. All right. And then, only then, after these 3 bars, do we start to get silly season. That is to the upside, where you get 1.5 to 2x the multiple, 2 to 2.5. And then here's actually a very, very good time to buy situation. All right, this beige one, this is 0 to 0.25. And I'll show you this in another chart in a second. Then 2.5 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, and 6 to the top. 7.8, there it is. That's the max that it ever has happened under this method. Again, the new method. I've archived the old method. You know, if you use the all-time trend over the price, again, it could be much higher, over 15x even. But here, since we're evolving these multiples with the trend, this is a much tighter, better look. But I'm going to run this race again. Keep an eye on these lower levels as they grow. They stop. Obviously, they stop after the first few years of Bitcoin's life. Okay, so we're going to run it again. So by 2018 now, nothing here is going to change. Nothing in the lower side. Oh, the 2.5 to 3 did, but nothing in 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6. Nothing more happened after 2018. After 2018 actually. That's right. So it got to 6x, of course. So it will happen there from here a little bit, but most of the time, really, above 3, very rare now. That is the price being 3x the trend, very rare. So let's put this now in this probability mass. That's the word I was searching for in the last stream, which, like I said, my buddy Sina over at the Best Bitcoin Data Show put some good info together for that. Like he uses a little bit different numbers. They're using, he's using direct percentiles. I'm making percentiles on the multiple. Okay, just because to me it's a simpler way to keep it together. But anyway, I'm going to reorganize these now as far as putting the multiples in certain buckets as they grow. Okay, you ready? And here it comes, right here. Let's take the price projection off. Okay, so here we have on the x-axis, we have the multiple ranges, 0 to 0.25, 2.5 to 5. And by the way, I'm staggering these on a few different ways just because it's easier. So here I'm going in steps of 0.25. Now I'm going in steps of 0.5. All right. And then after 3, I go in steps of 1, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, 5 to 6, because it's so rare anyway, it doesn't matter. And then 6 to 7.8. But as we can clearly see, all right, where does most of the occurrence of price versus the multiple, price versus the trend, where does it occur? Between 0.25 and 0.5x, 0.5 and 1, and 1 and 1.5. And if you want to know actual numbers, that is percentages, I can tell you that all 3 of these bars together in the middle there, 78% of the time. 78% of the time, in the life of Bitcoin, you're going to have data that occurs in those 3 bars. Okay, and I'm just looking at exact for you. I could have put it on the chart, but it's it's always evolving here. So it's 26% of the time. This first big bar, 33% of the time is the max. This is also the mode, of course. In this calculation, this would be the mode. So most of the data falls here. 33% of the time. And then 18% of the time is 1 to 1.5x. Now, where are we right now? As I just said, if we go back to this chart, where are we right now? We're 1.1x. 1.1x. So 1.1x, the price of Bitcoin will put us right at the start of this column here. All right. And when you have these ranges, we're actually, to get outside of this range, you got to get above the top side, right? So it's sort of Bitcoin is just starting in this range. It used to be in this range. Right now, where we are in the cycle of Bitcoin and the price, the adoption of Bitcoin for this next 4-year cycle, as we typically like to call them, right, in Bitcoin, we've moved out of this range, 0.5x to 1x, and we've moved into 1x to 1.5x. Now, to be clear, you can, of course, make any range you want. I could make all of these in multiples of 0.25x, right, in a range of 0.25x, like a step up of 0.25. I could make it 0.5. I could make it 0.1x. Like, you could put a lot of bars on this chart. But to kind of for clarity, for simplicity, I like this presentation just because it just shows you, look, 80% of the time, the price trend of Bitcoin, the price versus the trend, the price versus the power regression is either 0.25 to 0.5, 0.5 to 1, or 1 to 1.5. All right, so that's a huge, it's not even, it's just a huge amount of the data is here. Okay, I was going to say a huge delta, but it's not even that big of a delta, actually. I mean, most of the time, the data is indeed around the trend, and in fact, it's under the trend. Most of the time, if you add up these two, that's 59. Yeah, that's 59% of the time, Bitcoin is going to be in these two candles, in these two columns, between 0.25x of the trend and 1x of the trend. And actually, let's go down here now. This is like beautiful time to buy Bitcoin. This would be back in late 2022 and in other times as well. But when we're at 0 to 0.25x, just to show you when that happened, it'll be like here for sure. All right, we were at 0.1x, 0.16x. This is back in early 2011. It's very deeply discounted here as well. September 2015. And actually, I might have misspoken. Yeah, it didn't actually happen really in 2023. So again, this shows you that it's not a perfect distribution, right? It's not a perfect oscillator because we, even when we were severely discounted at the end of 2022, it was actually 0.3x. So we wouldn't have been in this candle at the end of 2022. But this shows you the distribution, the probability mass, and whatnot. And so now let's start to think about moving forward, right? Let's start to think about what I just showed you in the last chart here and in the last video on Friday, when I showed you that rainbow chart, which again, I just showed on the stream as well. Let's think about what that could portend for the future price of Bitcoin, both this year and moving into the late 2020s, okay? So we have this distribution. I'm going to put the price at December 31st, 2025. I'm going to put that on the right-hand axis now. So, again, this is a multiple. I'm just assuming the same distribution. All right, so I'm not changing anything about the distribution. That is the green, different probability buckets. But assuming these probability buckets hold for another year, which is not much reason to assume that it would completely shift or change. This is the point about probabilities, right? And applied statistics, applying them to Bitcoin's adoption and Bitcoin's price curve. Assuming these multiples hold, then we just simply take the trend that we calculate at the end of 2025, okay? And just to remind you what that is, I can take you right back to this chart. Let's take it right back just so you can see it. Sorry, there we go. Still working on the live stream, transitioning. Here's the trend. Okay, and this black line, all right, out into 2025 year end, $125,000 per Bitcoin. That is the trend, 96% R squared. So going back to the chart, it's a very similar data, which I'm showing you, but I'm showing it now hopefully in a more intuitive way about the price versus the multiple. Where can that get you? All right, and so we go back to this screen, price versus the multiple, where can that get you? Well, if we stay at 1x, and here, remember, that's the top end is going to be the multiple. Okay, so here, this is 1x, which is the trend. If we're on trend, there's our $125,000 per Bitcoin, right? Got that there in the biggest, this is the mode of the data. Right now, we're starting to get into something that would represent remember, this is a range, but what I'm showing you, the price projection is 1.5. It's the top of this range. So right now we're at 1.1. That is literally the multiple that we're trading at right now at $99,000 per Bitcoin versus the power trend. It's about 1.1x. But if we got to 1.5x by December 31st, 2025, that would portend a $188,000 price per Bitcoin. Okay, and let's go the other way just to see if we slip back under trend, like to 0.5x, then we're back down to 62 grand. Okay, which was not a price level that we had seen before spring of this year. Keep in mind. Then we go back. If we go back to like very, very deep discounted now, 0.25x, that's going to take us back to $31,000 Bitcoin. Okay, so now the interesting thing, let's look up the curve, up the, this is skewed right. All right, so when the fat tail is on the right, the data is skewed right. Okay, most of the data is on the left. We see that, this is where the silly season starts. This is where the big pumps, you can formulate them, you can see them, and you can see how quickly they go. But before you get too excited about a number, and this is very interesting because we're getting close to 1 million here, and there have been plenty of analysts that have predicted $1 million per Bitcoin by the end of 2025. I am certainly not one of them. You can see the rarity that would need to occur for that to happen based on the trend. All right, let's go down here. This has only happened 15 days out of the 5,400 days worth of pricing or so. All right, so it's an extremely low 0.28% probability. 0.28% probability. 15 days out of 5,344 pricing days. That is 0.28%. And when you start to see the bars like this, when you see the distribution like this, I think it's very helpful to, to think twice about making sort of the crazy predictions or just buying into the hype, not grounding your purchasing behavior or your selling behavior in what the data is actually doing, what the data has done in the past, and what the data is telling you. Very rare. I mean, we could do it, but again, this represents a 7.8x multiple. Okay, so to do that, let's go back to this chart. To do that, it represents the price going up to this level, 7.83x. And you can see how many times that's happened. Exactly once. It happened once in June 2011 when the price was $35. That was 7.83 times higher than the power trend at the time. So that is how it looks. That is the distribution here of these multiples. And another thing I think to say, which we can also sort of see with this chart, which I think is helpful, is as the price is smaller in dollar amounts, as it's smaller, Bitcoin is a scale invariant network, so it grows at, for every 12.7% increase in time, the price of Bitcoin doubles. Okay, it's the scale invariant network. As that was occurring here, very quick increases in time, very quick doubling. It's interesting that these dots, all right, they almost get heavier as we go forward. Okay, so to make that doubling happen, it takes longer. It still takes just another 12% increase in time, which I talked a lot about on the live stream on Friday. But it seems that the larger the price, the heavier this multiple becomes. So again, it's not a perfect oscillator, but I like this presentation of the multiples. I like it a lot because it puts it in clear perspective what the multiple, what the price could be versus the trend at any given time. And there it is. I mean, that's how it looks. So if you want to know my prediction, all right, and again, past performance, not future results, never financial advice, as always. I like to make the caveats. I think it's probably going to be less than 3x. All right. Simply based on the way that this has worked in the past, every boom has in fact been less than the prior boom as far as the tops every single time. Okay. This was obviously a mini boom. This was a mini boom. But if you look at the 2011 June, all right, then we start the 4-year cycles now from 2009 to 2013. All right, 7.5x, 6x, 3x. Not necessarily any discernible trend with these points. People play with this stuff a lot in different ways. I understand that. I'm not even worried about that. I'm just trying to show you the basics. If we assume that the heavier price, the larger adoption, more people using ETFs, more people using options and perpetual futures and trying to short this asset, I think it's going to be less. You know, how much less? Anybody's guess, but I would say I'm putting it, for me, the top end is 2.5, 2.5x. So let's go back. What's 2.5x here? Top end is this candle. There's this price. And I think that's probably even optimistic. I think 2 to 2.5 is a good range. All right. And again, it's always up to you if you want to hodl to the grave or hodl for 15, 20 more years, depending on your lifestyle, where you are in life. It's absolutely up to you for sure. But I think it's not, you know, I've been through a few of these cycles now, and you never know. You never know. Could be a major nation state adopts Bitcoin that really sort of whacks this chart up a little bit. It could be another major financial crisis. Bitcoin has really never gone through a full global financial crisis, right? We've had a pretty cautious world from that side since 2008. Bitcoin obviously started in the start of 2009, so 16 full years now. You never know. Might not be wise to sell any Bitcoin, but if you want to talk about just taking a few chips off the table, I think this is the multiple. Good morning, Kevin. It's early. It's quite early for you. Thank you for joining. So yeah, we're just going through the this probability mass, as I said, based on these buckets, based on the multiple, which I think is just a simple, easy way to understand where Bitcoin has been in the past relative to the trend compared to now. And most of the time, in fact, the mode here, 33% of the time it's in this bucket, 0.5x to 1. 26% of the time it's in this bucket. 18% of the time it's in this bucket. Altogether, that's 78% together. So you're already here. Let me take you to the 2.5x. You're already at the 2.5x at 94 percentile, 94. So that means 94% of all observations were below 2.5x in the history of Bitcoin, 94%. So if you want to take it to 3x, did I just look at that incorrectly? I think I did actually, didn't I? No, I said 2.5. 2.5, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm doing this on the fly. 3 would have been here. If we get to 3, it's here. All right, 376,000. To me, that's just too high this year. Again, some people predict 1 million by the end of this year, but getting to 3x is just probabilistically, I just don't see it, based on the fact that you have a lower top every single top, the lower multiple top. So to me, 2.5x would be the max there. That's 315. But again, percentage-wise, all right, all the data, if you get to 3x now, that is 96.5% of the time. So if you get to this level, there's only 3.5% more days in the life of Bitcoin that have proven that it can go higher than this on a multiple basis. And all that happened pre-20. I was about to say pre-2017, but it's not true, is it? We can get to 6x. So, yeah, actually, 2017 did represent up into here very briefly, but mostly 2017 and earlier, mostly 2013 and earlier. And this candle right here, this last one, has only happened in 20 2011. So you need a 2011 type move when Bitcoin price was very nimble, thin markets, no options, no futures, no shorting. Very nimble move where you had new developers coming in online in the last year to get to 1 million. That's what this is saying. Assuming that the power trend is a good trend and Bitcoin is on a power regression and will hold on it. It's just very, very rare air. In my opinion, above 2x is, just looking at the data, right? Again, go back to 2.5x. That's 94%. It's actually a little bit less than 94%. It's 93.7%. So at this level and lower, this level and to the left, you got 93.7% of all observations of Bitcoin. So it's got to be an extremely rare, powerful pump to the upside to get you to these levels. And again, I preach more caution and conservatism and just trying to understand the numbers than just predicting a crazy number for no reason. So you can probably imagine who I'm talking about, or some people that I'm talking about. But I see this as extremely rare, extremely biased thinking to get this high. And I would caution against it. Certainly if you're thinking about like taking out credit card loans to buy Bitcoin or something, you really got to be careful there. So that's where it is. To me, I like these multiples as far as, if 2025, the end of this year, is the boom, every 4-year cycle, if it is indeed, just like we had in 2017 and 2021, 2x to 2.5x, 2x to 2.5x, that's 250K to 300K-ish, all right? Because again, 3x seems difficult. It seems that as these bubbles get bigger, Bitcoin gets heavier according to that power trend line. Let's show you 2029 now, just for fun. Let's go out 4 more years, okay? And we can do this again by just analyzing this under the context of the power trend. All right, so still amateur streamer here. Going back to this chart. All right. Don't have all the way to 2029, but let's zoom it to here. Okay, so we're somewhere around here. All right. And if we just roll this thing out all the way to 2029, I'm going to show you now multiples, but really show you that stack, that distribution, that probability mass. Actually, I mean start of 2029, don't I? December 2029. All right, so it seems great here. The multiple is 426. So a 1x, a price being 1x, the regression will be about 427,000. I'm going to show you that in the other slide. But let's now kind of visually look how likely all these other bands are, from $51,000 Bitcoin to $3.3 million Bitcoin. Let's look at that now. And to do that, we go back to this chart, not that one, but this one. Whoops, and I still didn't transition, did I? That should be good. Okay. A little bit delayed there. Sorry for the pauses, but just making sure the stream is working okay. Here's 2029. Okay, so again, nothing changed in the green bars. Just to remind you how this works, nothing changed here. The probability mass, the distribution here, it's all the same. It's just the days in range until today. Like I said, 78% is here. But now we'll put the multiple over the 2029 trend to give us inferred price. And here we go. Okay, so 2029, assuming 4 more years out from the end of this year, assuming the 4 more year cycle, assuming that the boom happens at the end of the 4th year of the cycle, a year and a half after the halving that preceded it. 1x, there we go. There's our 427,000 Bitcoin or so. 1x, that is the multiple, right? The 0.5 to 1x. And again, this is always showing the top end of the multiple as far as the price projection. 426,000. All right. And to give you again a number, 1x, that's still, that 420, this is the amazing thing about Bitcoin and the adoption and with the way the power curve works. This 426,000 being in this 1x candle is, sorry, I might need to refresh this page. Am I still working? I don't know why this is, there we go. This 426,000 represents 64% of the time. Okay, that 1x move, 1x of the trend line, it's still, that's huge. I mean, 64% of the time is huge. And then if you add this, all right, you're at 82%. Remember, 78 is the three biggest candles, and you tack on another 4 for this small one, which is like super mega duper buying opportunity that we actually haven't had since, I'm pretty sure, since pre 2017. I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure on the intraday we've hit it, but we haven't hit it on a day end. So yeah, we may not even see this again on the low side. We may never see 0.25x on the low side, which is also interesting. But here's the, the 1x multiple, 65% of the time and below, 64% of the time and below, or 426,000, roughly 1x multiple of the trend. Then as we go up, numbers just keep looking great from here. And as far as I'm concerned, 1.5x multiple, 640K, 2x, 850K. And there's what I thought would be the top for this year. Perhaps it will be, perhaps it won't, and seems less likely to be the top in 2029, meaning it should be a lower multiple. 2.5x, that's $1 million. That's $1 million Bitcoin at the end of 2029. But again, to get to the silly season numbers, like, you just got to go back to 2011 type moves. To get to this number, it's only in 2011. To this number, it's like 2013, little bit of 2017 here, but just very barely. Most of the days that you're seeing in this stack, 147 days, 98 days, 48 days, they all occur here in 2011, 2013, a little bit in 2017 as well. All right. So basically, anytime now, I mean, it's pretty clear to say anytime we get above 3x, it's just massive. And to go back to what I repeated, based on what you see, yes, it's not a perfect oscillator, but it just seems unlikely to be that the price is going to be 3x the trend in any boom, in any top at the moment. So again, to remind you, what's the trend here in 2029? 426. That's the trend. 1x the trend. If the price hits that, it's 426,000. And then you just go up from there. It's like happy days, silly season. In my opinion, again, you're going to be looking at something tighter than before. So 2 to 2.5x. There's your projected price, 800,000 to $1 million. And here is just, it would be something incredible. Based on the data, it would just be something incredible to see. And that's 2029. 2029 figures. Thank you, F Society, for watching. Happy to. So that is, that's 2029. This is 2025, a little bit closer to today, closer to reality, right? A year from now, the trend projects 125x. A year from now, that is the trend. End of 2025, 125x. We're in a boom year, presumably. Again, nothing's certain, but we're presumably there. But if you want to look at the crazy predictions, to me, they are just crazy. I mean, you're talking about a move that just has not happened. But when the price was really light, Bitcoin was really nimble, markets were very thin, and there weren't a lot of instruments to short. So it is remarkable that this trend has stayed the same. All right. Let's go back now to this one, because that's all I really wanted to show for this section. It is remarkable, again, that most of the time, let's take off everything but the trend. I gotta reset this actually. again, it is remarkable that most of the time Bitcoin is on this power trend. Okay, uh, but it just seems very unlikely to me that we would deviate such at such a space from this, either on the top end or the downside, that we would get like, turn into an exponential trend or just do something else. It just seems unlikely. So this is the all-time trend according to today. And that trend, as I said, goes out, you'll find your 125,000 roughly here at year end 2025, and you're going to find your 425,000 here at year end 2029. And this goes out to, the next halving after that, 2033, there's your 1.3 million, 1.2 million. That's, I didn't show the probability mass there, but that's two halvings away. So that kind of summarizes what I wanted to show from kind of in addition to what I talked about Friday. Got one more chart for you just to show you. This is the monetary base. This is also, I think, helpful, and I probably should project this out even further. 2033 December, is it the same? Yeah, it is 2033. Good. So here's the monetary base now. Bitcoin, as it stands, is getting close to 10% of this, which is pretty wild. It's not quite 10%. It's got to get to $2.7 trillion market cap to get to 10%. But it's getting close, which is just incredible. And the fact that it's done that in 15 years. I mean, here's a 15-year view of the monetary base. The monetary base back when Bitcoin, let's get a little bit more. Again, monetary base is, that's the comparable money supply to Bitcoin. You want to talk about printing press, you want to talk about, what is a comparable money supply to Bitcoin? It's right here. It's monetary base. When Bitcoin started, monetary base was 7.7 trillion in fiat. The trend was right about that, 7.2 trillion. Again, this is all-time trend. And now it's 27 trillion, actually under trend at the moment. So the monetary base, they're trying to cut off all this inflation from COVID, which is here. They're pulling it down, raising interest rates. That's how it works. Bitcoin has gone from nothing, nil of 7 trillion in 2009, 8 trillion to almost 10% of 27 trillion in 2024. It's an incredible achievement. I mean, Satoshi Nakamoto will be granted the Nobel Prize of Economics for sure at some time, whether anonymously or posthumously, if we ever understand who he is. But it's just a remarkable achievement, and that is where, that's where Bitcoin is now. So now we pull this back out. Think about this. Okay, so look, this is a different curve, right? The power of Bitcoin moves on a concave down over the long term on log scale, log linear. Most of the financial system moves on exponential. Exponential is a straight line. It's constant growth. And if you wanted the slope of this curve, it's about 12%. It's 12.7%. Actually, this curve is a little bit less, but it's too complicated to explain why that is the case. This is just drawn over the dollar values, so I'm not going to go into it. But my headline compound growth figure for fiat money is 12.7%, or doubling less than every 6 years. So let's move the needle out from today to, let's say, after the next halving, 2029 year end, $56 trillion monetary base, double today at least. All right. And look how strong that R squared is, by the way, 99%. It moves in exponential. Markets move in exponential, except for Bitcoin. It's the remarkable thing. And then 2033, 83 trillion. So two halvings from now, it actually appears that we might get to that mythical 100 trillion. And I'm not going to show it on this video, but I have lined those two up. I've matched them. Looking at the Bitcoin projection versus the monetary base projection. I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that this week in another stream. We might get to that mythical 100 trillion as far as market cap versus the monetary base. But if things stay on this course, then that is 2 halvings from now where that's going to happen. And this is a strong trend. All right, 99% R squared for the global monetary base, global fiat money. So yeah, that's all I had for this show. It's been about 50 minutes. Like I said, I'm going to try to start these streams, I think probably around this time, 11 o'clock Riga time, 10 o'clock Germany, France, 9 o'clock in the morning, Britain, or that's like 4 in the morning, Florida. So thanks, Kevin, if you're still up. But yeah, I'm happy to keep showing these charts and building out these charts. I'm going to do some more money supply stuff this year, not just the U.S. Going to look at the U.K., going to look at Europe, going to look at Japan, going to look at Russia. As I said, I think this might be the Bitcoin in Ukraine live stream. Just, protect yourself with Bitcoin and protect Ukraine with defense. This might be the Bitcoin in Ukraine live stream. But yeah, 9 p.m. in Australia. Nice. Hopefully that's not too late for you. Or it's a good stream time. And yeah, I appreciate it, guys, for watching. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now. If you want to go back and look at any of these charts, I'll stay on here for a couple minutes. But probably will target, an hour most mornings, unless people have a lot of questions, which again I'm happy to answer. So this is the fiat world. This is the TradFi world, and then we have this is the Bitcoin world, and they move differently. The curves are different, which is very interesting. This is more like cities. This is more like the internet, the way this grows. It's scale invariant. And this is how the traditional financial system works, which is compound interest. You pick a rate. It's a constant growth. It doesn't matter how big something is. It just stays at that rate. And indeed, in case you're curious, this is more actually powerful. Exponential growth is more powerful, because if you have a base of, say, a trillion, and then you keep growing something at 2% per year, that's going to double faster than something like Bitcoin doubles. That's true. But with Bitcoin, we're starting from a base of nothing. Nobody knew what the growth rate was going to be. We get a doubling every 12.7% increase in time. So 12.7 increase in days, which I talked about a lot on Friday. So, hi Boron, thanks for joining. Just talking about how I'm probably going to be doing these streams about 9 a.m. Riga time, 10 Central Europe, 11 UK, 9 p.m. Australia, or at least some part of Australia. So yeah, if happy to answer any more questions if you have on this one, or the on the trend lines, building out these curves. But I think based on the probability mass that I showed here, this is really going to be brass tacks. If you want to just know, if you don't know what the possibility is during the next boom, assuming this is the boom year, to me, 2x, 2.5x of the trend is something to plan for. 2x to 2.5x. The trend is going to be 125,000 at the end of this year. We presume the market's going to overshoot it, as it has done in prior years. So 2x the trend, 250K. 2.5x the trend, 300K, 315K. It's just, there's so much data to support that. There's very little data to support this, the silly season. So I think I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining the stream. We'll keep it here maybe about an hour most mornings. I'm happy to do this. I'm happy to do this live now, and look forward to interacting with you guys more in the future. My BTC Pay is on my website if you want to check that out, porkopolis.io in the show notes as well. Take care, guys.